Hi everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards here, and today I'm doing a little different series. I like to start different series on my channel just because I have different interests and just different moods of how I want to do things with my collection. And this one here, I got inspired by Greg GW573, and I shouted him out before, but he had done a video a couple weeks back where you profiled 25 cards in your collection that you would keep if those are the only cards you could have. And I'm going to kind of play off that theme, and I'm going to do 30 cards though, and I'm just going to profile cards based for different reasons in this series. And I'm a very sentimental person. That's why I'm a vintage collector, I think, because I'm very fond of the past, very fond of the history, and that's the focus of my card collection, 30s to 1989, and that was the heyday when I was collecting in the late 80s, and the past is really interesting to me. And I can tell you, in my collection, certainly of recent times, every card I have, I know the stories of the players. I watch video on them. I can't say I read biographies on every one of them, but I certainly research them before I even buy them, because I like to know about the players, and I just love the history of the players. That's very, very important to me. Yeah, I collect only graded cards because that's just, like I've said before, the way I want to go with my collection, because I want a collection that I could pass on to my family when I'm gone, as I've said many times, and just they can do what they need to do with it. I like the organization of it. I like having great players in my collections, and that's just kind of how I built my collection over 20-something years. It means I don't buy a lot of cards all the time, necessarily, but when I do buy things, they're important purchases to me, and they have a lot of meaning to me. And I like to use my channel to really share that with others, and that's kind of a niche that I have in this community. I'm not a pack breaker or anything like that, and I'm not a modern collector, but my niche is the vintage cards, and that's what I enjoy doing the most, and I just love the history. So the 4 cards I have here, this is a little different than some of the ones I picked for Greg, because he really inspired me to kind of think about this. And I have 4 Cleveland players here. And if I was building a case of 30 and I said this is all I was going to have to pass as a legacy forward, which is, again, what I'd like to do, these cards all have meaning to me, all 4 of these cards. My father-in-law was a huge Cleveland fan when he was a kid. He wasn't from the Cleveland area, but he grew up in an area where they didn't have sports teams, so Cleveland was the closest that he could get on the radio. He was a child in the 40s and early 50s, so these would have been the players that he would have seen. Now, Jim Brown would have been a little later, but Jim Brown kind of falls in that vein of great Cleveland players of that time. So these 4 cards here would be the first 4 that I would put in my case, because they tell a story. When I look at him, I think of him. This Bob Feller here, that was his favorite pitcher growing up. He was a huge Bob Feller fan. Bob Feller was the star of the Cleveland Indians at that time. This is what would capture right in that heyday when my father-in-law was probably an early teen, 14, 15 years old. And this is just a beautiful image of Bob Feller, and I just love this card, and this card has real special meaning to me when I added it to my collection. So the next person on here is Otto Graham. He was a huge Cleveland Browns fan. He would listen to them on the radio, and your radio, that's just how you imagine back then. You didn't really see the players, as many of you know, other than on the trading cards or in magazines. There was no television, so you really listened on your transistor radio, and your imagination just ran wild. So he was a big-time Otto Graham fan. This is a 1950 Bowman Otto Graham rookie. And again, these are high-end cards, but I don't care. I mean, I want a nice collection. There's people who have much better stuff than I have. I don't care about that. These are just cards that have special meaning to me, and I don't apologize for, I will put a lot of money to get 1 card to add to my collection, because I just want something that has meaning to me. I don't spend a lot of time, as you know, on my videos talking about picking a card apart and saying everything that's wrong with it. The card is beautiful to me. This 50 Bowman Otto Graham is just a beautiful card, and it's just representative of a great player that, my goal with this case would be those that I'd want to share with my family and build this kind of legacy to them,
to say, hey, this is the stuff that your grandfather liked or your great-grandfather liked someday. He was a big Browns fan, and these were the greats of his time that he listened to. So I like having the great players profiled in my collection, and but there's meaning to it, and there's a story to it. And the other here is Miriam Motley, and he was one of the early people that broke the color barrier in the pro football, in the AAFL. Even before Jackie Robinson. There was others as well, but he was one of them that Paul Brown signed. And he was just a great fullback with the Cleveland Browns, very powerful runner. Interesting, he wore the number 76 back then. And this is the rookie card of Miriam Motley. I picked this one up not too long ago because I'm building a 50s key card run. And this one I was just thrilled to have in my collection because, again, these are the greats that my father-in-law listened to on the radio and just had a lot of affinity for. He used to send them letters, and he has a book where he got their autographs that we still have in the family. That's just a real special meaning. So when I look at these cards, I often think of him. And I've showed this card before, my Jim Brown rookie, but this is one that would definitely be in a case that I would share for my 30 cards that would be on the wall. It would have to be a Jim Brown in there, and he's a Cleveland great and has those ties to my father-in-law's fandom as a kid. So these are the 4 cards that I'm going to profile here first. And then each one I'm going to do groupings based on the meaning they have within the case. So this is the Cleveland Quartet is the start of this video. The first 4 of 30 that I'm going to show. And to end here, my father-in-law's favorite player growing up was Al Rosen. And here's a Sports Illustrated. It's just in beautiful, beautiful condition. He had this since a kid. He saved it and just put it in a drawer because he was just a huge Al Rosen fan. That was his favorite player growing up. And if you open this up, I'm going to be careful with it. But it still has like the cards inside of it. And then this is the one. Just give me a second here. Going through it here. It has the cards inside of it. I don't want to damage it. Not the 54 cards, but it has 55 cards on a page here. It's pretty cool. And this is completely intact magazine, just a beautiful magazine that he just kept and saved. So I just want to thank you for tuning in. And I'm trying to do a couple videos a week because I know a lot of people post a lot of videos, but I'm just always excited to share some of the things that I'm thinking about, and just the pure joy of collecting that I have, and just how much I love cards and the stories that these cards tell. So I appreciate everybody's time again, and you have a great day.